Where do you go when you need medical information? And what do you do when they dismiss your symptoms? And how do you express your concern? Listen to what one Black woman chose to do. Her name is Naseh DeSander. Welcome, Naseh.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. Around maybe like 14-ish, my period started to get like crazy painful. And the way I was raised is like we do a lot of homeopathic medicine. So if we can fix things through healthy habits, food, stuff like that's option one. And then go to like a medical professional, right? Tried a whole lot and nothing was helping
Give
at
me,
all.
give me a for instance. What holistic type practices did you do? And this was to control the pain associated with your periods?
Yes, exactly. Kind of monitoring sugar intake. That one actually does work. So I cease all sugar intake before my period. Does eating meat or stop eating meat help or hurt? Things like that. Kind of the hard thing about that is that you don't get your results immediately, right? So if I was like, all right, I'm going to cut out all meat, or I'm going to stop eating gluten, I'm going to stop
Mm,
whatever it is, you don't, the pain doesn't stop immediately. You have to keep doing
sure,
that and only that for
sure.
months to be like, okay, I think I'm seeing an improvement. And then you can try something new. So it's a very slow process. And it was affecting me very negatively. After some research, we figured out this is probably endometriosis. And looking at the options that were available at that time, a lot less than what's out there now in terms of products and different like teas and tinctures. But at that time, surgery was kind of the only option that we saw online, and it's a very invasive surgery to have the kind of the cysts removed. And something that we saw was that for a lot of women who got this done, some of them were fine afterwards, but a majority of them, the cysts that cause endometriosis would grow back after a couple months. That's not really worth it, right? And also, at the time, I was living in the United States, right? So it's not a free surgery. It's not a $20 surgery, super invasive, super expensive, and it fixes the problem for like a couple months. We're like, that's not worth it. Something else I'd seen is that birth control could help with regulating the periods and also the pain. So that was kind of my impetus to go to the gynecologist about this for the first time when I was a teenager. We go, I tell the gynecologist what's happening, and he says, that's normal.
He said
And I'm like,
what? He
it's
said that's
normal.
normal. Wow.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, I'm in so much pain that I'm screaming, I am throwing up, and like, for those who don't have endometriosis, the pain, there's the contractions of the pain are so strong that like everything has to come out. So it's not, so like SARS is TMI, but it's not just coming out the front end, it's coming out the back end too. And even if there's nothing in you, your body is just like, it feels like there is. You're like, it has to come out, right? So it's super painful. And last days, so I'm telling the gynecologist this, and he's like, no, nah, that's normal. You're being dramatic. And he's like, so what do you want me to even do about this? And so because he was clearly not coming to me with any solutions or options that I was hoping he would say like, oh, maybe this, maybe that. No, he's just like, what do you want me to do? So I was like, okay, well, I came with the one thing that I had read online.
Mm.
My mom was with me and she knew about this too. So I was like, well, I read that maybe birth control could help. And the look he gave me, I will never forget for my entire life. This is a white man, by the way. And for those who can't see me, I'm a Black woman. Well, he kind of looks up from his keyboard, his clipboard, in this manner of like, you little slut. If you just wanted birth control, you could have said that. Like as if I'm this like loose teenager that just wants birth control, but I need an excuse because my mom is here, right? Like he looked at me like that, like, okay, yeah, we'll give you some birth control. So I never went back to the gynecologist for years after that because that was such a mortifying experience. He was so nasty, so condescending, and then that cherry on top of like, yeah, we can give you birth control. I was like, okay, well, I'm done. So I didn't
Wow.
get diagnosed then. I got diagnosed much later. Um, But yeah, so that's my kind of my opening experience
If we
into
could pause right here.
yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot. The first thing, you don't look that old. This experience with the gynecologist was about how many years ago?
13 years ago.
Give us an idea of your menstrual cycle. You said it was really bad
Mhm.
and it was painful.
Yeah,
How many days would you bleed for?
typically 3.
3 days. So it wasn't extremely long.
Yeah, I was definitely lucky in that regard. I didn't have to go through a whole week or
What
anything.
about the flow? Was it excessive or were you finding that you were changing every hour on the hour?
No, I think it's probably normal. I mean, I haven't seen anyone else's flow, but well, I assume it was quite normal. It wasn't super heavy. Definitely not. I wasn't changing every hour.
Okay, so it really wasn't the bleeding, it wasn't the length of the cycle, it was the pain.
Yeah.
Can you describe the location, the intensity of the pain? Did it keep you from going to school? Did it keep you from extracurricular activities? Tell us about the pain.
Yeah, so it definitely kept me from school. Going to school was not possible because I was screaming the whole time. So that would have disrupted class, right? Yeah, so I wasn't going to school during that time, and that was something that was really scary for me because I was like, I'm in high school at this point, and I'm thinking, how am I going to get a job? There's no job that lets you take a week off of work every month, right? That's going to be a problem. How am I going to support myself when I get older, right? I work remote now, so that's worked out great. But back then, remote work wasn't really a thing, so I was very nervous about that. And then in terms of the location of the pain, it's definitely hmm, like how would I even describe this? Definitely the womb area. I mean, I guess that goes without saying, right? And it's not a sharp pain. It's like a kind of a. It's not a general pain either, though. It is definitely like I guess in large areas, but all quite concentrated. So I guess it feels like it's concentrated in one area, but it's intense, so that I'm feeling it elsewhere. You know?
And you would have to go to bed. The pain was so severe.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't sleeping, but I was definitely in bed.
And how would you medicate or how would you treat yourself?
That was the hard thing. I couldn't keep anything down. I couldn't take Advil or any kind of pain medication because I couldn't. I was throwing up the whole time. The strength of the medication didn't matter. It couldn't go down, right? So I wasn't there. I was truly nothing I could take. So for those 3 days, I wasn't eating either. So I wouldn't eat.
Nausea and vomiting, anything else associate? I mean, that's enough. That's
Yeah.
enough. Anything else associated with these menstrual cycles?
Definitely extreme fatigue. I didn't notice it when I was going through the extreme pain. Now, as an adult, I noticed the extreme fatigue. Just because, if you're screaming and crying for days on end, of course you're going to be tired. So I didn't connect it. But now that I kind of got things under control a bit more, I do notice now, I'm like, okay, I am unbelievably tired during my period.
You also said that you were doing a lot of research. You were online trying to figure out, trying to diagnose yourself, and you were
Yeah.
doing this prior to even seeking medical attention.
Yeah.
And you came up yourself with the diagnosis that I must have endometriosis.
Yeah. I think my mom found it first. It's just me and my mom on Google. But then, of course, anyone's putting stuff on the internet, right? So it was a little hard to sift through.
And that's basically all. You just checked off all the symptoms of
Yeah, exactly. Looking
what's
at all the symptoms, I'm like, okay, I got that one, I got that one, I got that one.
okay. And then you said, let's go to the gynecologist because at that point you had decided birth control pills might be an option for you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Did you have a sense of how the birth control pills helped, how they worked?
No, I had no idea how they worked. I just read that it helped for some women, so I was like,
Good enough.
all right.
And then you decide to go to the gynecologist because You decided you wanted to try the birth control pills. Reasonable, reasonable. Is there a reason that you chose to go to this particular gynecologist? You mentioned that he was a white male.
Yeah.
And you had also mentioned that you were more of the holistic type.
Mm-hmm.
And so, was there some thinking or calculation that made you decide this is the person I should go to?
Yes, it had to, because we didn't have insurance for most things. So I think this was like the one in the area that we could go to. It was either a discount or something like that.
And it sounds like a horrible encounter.
Well, I will also say I grew up in a very white area, so that sucked for for a bajillion reasons.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that was also part of it, just me being one of the very few, if any, black patients that you would have seen. To be like,
Hmm.
okay, well, I've seen stuff about black people on TV. I know that know they're very promiscuous or whatever, right? So,
As a gynecologist, I just want to apologize to you.
thank
No
you.
one should have that type of experience. Did he end up giving you the birth control pills, or did you just say, I'm through?
Yeah, he did end up giving us the prescription, so at least he could do that.
And did you try the pills and did they help?
I mean, the difference was definitely huge. I still wasn't having what I assume is like normal periods because I still wasn't able to go to school during this time. I just wasn't screaming anymore. So it was like, this is, definitely in the right direction, right? Like I can sleep, I can keep things down. So it was definitely the right direction. But yeah, the pain was still very extreme at that point.
So then what happens?
And then also in high school, I was lucky enough to be in a school where they offered college courses to the high school students. And I got good grades, so I was able to take those courses, but those courses had attendance requirements. So even though I was taking the classes, I was not able to get the college credit because
Oh,
there was no way I was going to be able to make and I didn't make the attendance requirement. Yeah, I'm still on birth control now, specifically for this reason. They definitely helped. So I'm still playing around with food and like figuring things out. Well, yeah, here. So there's two directions the story goes in: how I got my actual diagnosis, and then how I kind of got to my current kind of weird regimen that works for me. Right. Start with how I got my actual diagnosis. I went to university in Japan, and my mom calls me one day. She's like, "Hey, I just read this article. Apparently, endometriosis is super common in Japan." I'm like, "Oh." She's like, "Maybe you should try a gynecologist there." I'm like, all right. I'm in Japan. I have healthcare now, like actual standardized, national healthcare. I tried it. I made an appointment. I went down to the hospital. I saw a gynecologist, and he also didn't believe me, which was annoying. He also didn't believe me, but he's like, "I'll check." I was like, "All right, yeah, that's all. That's all I'm asking for." They do that little like light in the camera that goes all the way up, and he's like, "Yeah."
Japanese doctors typically diagnose endometriosis via medical history, physical examination, and transvaginal ultrasound. While it's not perfectly clear, it sounds as though this person may have had a cyst or an endometrioma on her ovary, which facilitated the diagnosis of endometriosis.
And then he was like, "Okay, yeah, you do have it actually." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." That's how I finally got diagnosed. Like that was good to know that we were on the right track. There's not really much to be done at that point, right? So then it was kind of the journey of still playing with food and seeing what does and doesn't help. And so eventually what I came on is that being gluten free was definitely a factor. I don't eat gluten now. It helped a lot in terms of the pain. Cutting out sugar before my period, and I also do intermittent fasting, and I found that has had a positive impact on the pain. I also drink red raspberry leaf tea every day, eat lots of just like period like healthy foods like flax seeds and things like that. And with all that together, as long as I don't falter on any of that, I have what I am assuming is a normal period. I'm only me, right? So I don't know, but I I'm in a good place where, and then again, I work remote, right? So I can stay in bed and work from there, but I'm miles better than when this first started, right?
Oh my. Oh my. So you get your diagnosis.
Mm.
and you put together a regimen, you tailor the treatment to you,
Yeah.
good, which is good.
I'm certainly not the biggest fan of the American healthcare system. I will say, outside of these like kind of personal experiences, I did work at a community health center for a year in New York City, and I am a licensed EMT. Like I went through the schooling, but I never like I decided not to work as one because I was kind of fed up with it. So to get your license, you have to do there's either one or two full nights on an ambulance as like a trainee. And so after doing all my schooling, I do that like at the end to, to take my test. Being on that, I've never been on that side of things before. I've never been on the side with the doctors and nurses and other medical practitioners, the other paramedics, the other EMTs. And and I am not saying this is everybody,
Mhm.
but all my experiences keep lining up. So it's not nobody either, right? There was this very it was very antagonistic. It was very us versus the patients. And I was like, that isn't I'm not with that, guys, right? So the default was not to believe the patients. We had this woman come in screaming and crying because she was like, I think I'm having a heart attack, like my heart hurts so bad. And I'm so worried. I'm like, she might, of course she could be wrong. Yeah, sure. But like something's wrong, right? Like we can agree something's wrong. An older Hispanic woman. And no one was worried but me. She's sitting there in the ER for a good 10, 15 minutes. Like, yeah, we'll get to her. We'll get to her. She's being dramatic. They say directly to me, we'll get, because I'm clear. I was like, hey, like, like, she's being dramatic. Don't worry. We'll get to her. We're busy. I'm like, okay, well, like, it is her heart. So, like, like, it's not a paper cut. Can we look at her really quick? But I'm the trainee, right? So I don't really have the power to influence anything going down. And I also am not experienced enough to be like, screw you guys, I'm gonna go help her. I can't do anything, right? I'm just witnessing it all. And that was kind of the theme for the whole night. Don't worry about it. They're dramatic, they're lying, it's fine. Don't worry about it. It's us versus them. Just, stay away from them kind of thing. And I was like, oh, this is not fun. Yeah, so I work in the film industry. I work for a streaming platform, and I also work for a number of film festivals. And I do it all remote. So I don't live in the United States anymore, though. I live in Spain now, and I've had very good experiences with doctors over here. So I've definitely had some medical experiences around the world.
But then you write a
A film, yeah. So just kind of my like, I guess, to heal the high school me, right? My deep frustrations around being treated that way, around not really knowing what was going on, about feeling so scared because I'm a deeply ambitious person. I want to do a bajillion things, but to think like, okay, this might stop all of that. I might not be able to do anything because of this was so frustrating and so scary. All of that just felt so frustrating. Like I was being left behind and like unable to grow up because of something totally out of my control. So I wrote this film kind of going back to that time, to those frustrations, to kind of let them all out through this other character that essentially ends up a lot less lucky than I am, right? In a place where she can't grow up, in a place where she is just stuck and unable to move on from where she is in life because of endometriosis. And it's called Dance of the Demons. So we do take a horror route with it. Something that I found in activist film, and I love activist film, I love impact films, but sometimes if they are a little too for that specific community, the only people that watch it are already in that community, already know it's a problem, and then nothing changes. Kind of the impetus on taking this horror out is that people who don't menstruate will see it. People who don't know anything about endometriosis will see it. People, just other people, will get to see it, know more about it, understand the struggles around it, and just be more aware. Is the hope. So yeah, so that's what we're working on. We do have a YouTube channel for it where we're just going to document our process of making the film and getting it out there and all that exciting stuff.
you've written the film already, or you're working on it
Yeah,
currently?
the film is written. We're going to be filming in October of this year. So we'll be in the festival run 2026. And yeah, definitely, like, I'll send you the link so you can include it, but definitely
Absolutely.
everyone follow us on YouTube. It's Dance of the Demon Film. So lots of fun
Very
stuff.
exciting. Very exciting. Cathartic?
Yes, very.
How medical is it? Do you explain what endometriosis is? Do you talk about the treatments, or how do you intertwine all of that information that seems to be greatly needed
Yeah.
into a piece that does more? It not only talks about the medical condition, but how it affects you in
Mhm.
your life.
Yeah.
And so that's a big task. How do you go about
Yes.
doing that?
So the way it's integrated into the film is to allow the audience to put themselves in the main character's position and really experience endometriosis, but not just the condition, but of course the ways in which it's impeding her living her life. Definitely something I've never seen in film before is like a real period, right? So we get like, they're on the couch eating chocolate with like a heating pad or something, but like a real period. So in this film, there were very long scenes of her going through an actual period with endometriosis, coming out both ends, the screaming, the crying, the hyperventilating, something that I always do. Well, not anymore, luckily, but that I always did was because you constantly feel like you have to go to the bathroom even though you don't. It just felt more comfortable to lie down on the bathroom floor instead of go all the way back to my bedroom. Even though I don't live in a mansion, my bedroom's right there, but I would just lay on the bathroom floor and then get back up on the toilet and then lay back on the floor and then get back on the toilet. Lots of that in the film so that people who have endometriosis will watch it and be like, "Ooh, yeah, I know that. I know exactly what's going down." But those who don't have it or those who don't even menstruate will be able to see and go like, "Oh, okay, that's what's going on. That's what's happening when my employee calls out. She's not being dramatic, right?" We also do have a scene where our main character goes to the gynecologist and experiences exactly what I experienced, line by line. I put exactly what the gynecologist said to me in there, so she's got to deal with it too now. Kind of more cathartic pie throwing moment at the gynecologist for doing that. So yeah, it's very much about the experience. It's very much about putting yourself in this main character's shoes. We don't get super medical with it for a lot of reasons, mostly being I'm not a doctor, let me stay in my lane a little bit. But my hope is that audience members will watch this, fully understand that experience, and then want to hop online and be like, okay, well, what is this? What is going on? Like, okay. And a lot of people I've been speaking to about it do have experience with endometriosis, whether it be themselves or a partner or a parent or yeah, another family member. So it is something that's like kind of acutely touching people's lives where they're like, okay, I know I've heard of it. I kind of have an idea of what it is, but that's usually where it stops for most people unless they experience it themselves. So then this film is coming and saying, hold on, let me take you that next step over. Let's really see what someone is dealing with when they're in the thralls of this.
Singular experience?
Mm-hmm.
Or do we walk away from this film thinking, I need to have these type of symptoms in order to be diagnosed with endometriosis?
Now, it's definitely a film that says that this is this character's experience and this is what it can look like. So, definitely not trying to say that, this is the blueprint for endometriosis or anything like that, that this is this one person's experience and that it's very difficult. And I think it has that universality to it where even if you're not someone with endometriosis, but you're experiencing any kind of chronic pain condition, it hits a lot of those kind of points as well. This idea of everything in your life is revolving around it, how you plan, what you do, when a flare up is going to come, things like that. It's definitely something, and for her, for this character, it's specifically endometriosis, but can easily branch out into other things, other sicknesses.
And do you advocate that there's a certain way that you need to present yourself when you're dealing with doctors or
Mm.
healthcare systems? Really awkward situation that people find themselves in.
Yeah, that's something definitely the film gets into a lot, the disbelief of Black women's pain, where it is just so easy to believe. I mean, there's still many doctors today who believe and teach that Black women experience pain differently than white women, that we can handle way more of it than they can. That's made up, right? So there is very much still in the medical field this kind of persistence of some whack shit from slavery that they still believe. I don't go to the doctor very often. I I honestly, I try the fix it yourself method first.
Mhm.
And only then, if it's like, if it seems something serious, then do I go to the doctor,
Is that
which
because you don't trust the healthcare system, or that's
yes, it is. They're still teaching that black women don't experience pain. I'm not, I'm like, what, let me see if I can handle myself first. Let me see if I can do it the healthy way. But then also, especially in the United States, they love prescribing random drugs for every, take a drug, take a drug. Whoa, let's talk first,
if your film sets people to talking, then
Yeah,
you have accomplished quite a bit. And you should be very proud of yourself. Yeah.
thank you so much.
Good.
Thank you. Definitely, everyone, subscribe to us on YouTube because we'll be documenting the whole process and talking about everything there. So, any major announcements will definitely go on the YouTube channel to know when we're at festivals, what festivals, stuff like that. And if anyone wants to get in touch with me, my website is nacedesanders.com, NACEDESANDERS.com. And then from my website, all my socials and stuff are there too. So you can follow me on TikTok if TikTok is sticking around, on Instagram, anything like that.
Okay. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so, so much. I really appreciate it.
Endometriosis is a female condition where tissue resembling the lining of the uterus is growing outside of the uterus, often characterized by pain and abnormal bleeding. Definitive diagnosis requires surgical biopsy of the aberrant tissue. Treatment varies, including meds to control symptoms, i.e. pain, and or meds to make the aberrant tissue hormonally inactive. If you think you have endometriosis, seek medical help. Advocate for your health. Don't stop until you get answers and understanding. Take
You
care.
too.
Bye
That's it.
bye.
Bye bye.
Her answer was deliberately edited out.